Programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage. I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Good evening and a very Merry Christmas Eve to you, and welcome to GB News. I'm Alastair Stewart. Coming up over the next hour, I'll be joined by royal commentator Richard FITZWILLIAMS to look ahead to the Queen's traditional Christmas address at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I'll also be speaking to Major General Eric Kenny, who is tasked with tracking Santa's movements across the world this evening, as he drops off millions of presents to those of us lucky enough to be on his good list. We'll find out what goes into a huge operation like following St Nick himself. And with millions of families here in the UK and across the world getting ready to celebrate Christmas Day with loved ones, Tonia Buxton will join me live in the studio in just a few moments to give us her tips for cooking up a festive treat. But first, let's bring you right up to date with all of the day's news. Here's Karen Roberts.
Thank you, Alastair. This is your news at 6 o'clock. A further 122,186 lab-confirmed COVID cases have been recorded in the UK in the latest 24-hour period, marking a third consecutive record day. Elsewhere, figures from the Office for National Statistics show a record 1.7 million people were infected with COVID-19 last week. Amid a steep rise in cases, vaccination centres will be open even on Christmas Day. Staff and volunteers are giving vaccines today, tomorrow and on Boxing Day as part of a Jingle Jab campaign. In this year's Christmas message, Boris Johnson is urging people to come forward to get a COVID booster jab.
We know that things remain difficult, but for millions of families up and down the country, I hope and believe that this Christmas is and will be significantly better than the last in this vital respect, that we can celebrate together with those we love and raise our glasses to those who can't be with us.
Meanwhile, the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has thanked key workers who have saved countless lives this year in a Christmas message to the nation.
Christmas is also a time of reflection. This year, like last year, has been incredibly difficult for our country. Too many families have experienced unimaginable loss. For too many, there'll be one less chair at the table for the Christmas meal. But I believe that if we stick together, support each other and work together, we can find a path through. I know a better future is possible.
The UK is set to offer 12-month visas to social care workers in an attempt to combat staff shortages due to coronavirus. The temporary measures will come into effect early next year and are expected to attract thousands of staff. To qualify, migrant workers will need to be paid a minimum annual salary of £20,480. Well, the Queen's Christmas Day message is expected to be particularly personal this year, as it is her first since the death of her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. A photograph released by Buckingham Palace ahead of her televised address to the nation tomorrow shows the Queen at Windsor Castle. Her Majesty is accompanied by a single framed photo of her diamond wedding anniversary in 2007. A Moscow court has fined Google nearly £74 million for failing to delete content Russian authorities deem illegal. It's the first time a fine of this kind has been imposed in the country. Russia has been increasing pressure on big tech this year. Critics say it's an attempt to exert tighter control over the internet, threatening to stifle individual and corporate freedom. The UK, EU and the US have received more doses of COVID-19 vaccines in the last 6 weeks than African countries have all year. New analysis from the People's Vaccine Alliance shows that Western nations received 513 million doses. Meanwhile, countries in Africa received just 500 million throughout the whole of 2021. A drug which could halve the risk of death from some prostate cancers could be made available on the NHS. A study published in The Lancet found hormone therapy, abiraterone, could be effective in reducing the death rate of patients from 15% to 7%. More than 52,000 men are diagnosed with prostate cancer in the UK every year. The most expensive ever telescope is blasting into space tomorrow, 100 times more sensitive than its predecessor, Hubble. The James Webb Space Telescope will be launched on Christmas Day after a delay due to the weather. Scientists hope that it will shed new light on the birth of the universe. And as millions of children eagerly await the arrival of Santa Claus this Christmas Eve, GB News can confirm that St Nick has just been spotted above Bahrain. High-tech trackers from NORAD show that Rudolph and fellow reindeer are helping to make good time this Christmas to ensure all presents are delivered. So far, over 2.3 million have made their way down chimneys, and he's now on his way to Qatar. And we'll have another update on Santa's location at the top of the hour. And that's your news update. Now back to Alastair.
Karen, thanks very much indeed. Away from the presents and the pigs in blankets, another Christmas tradition for many families is settling down to the Queen's Christmas address at 3 p.m. on Christmas Day. This year, Her Majesty is expected to give a very personal Christmas message on what is her first Christmas Day since the death of her husband, Prince Philip. The annual broadcast was recorded last week before the Queen's decision to stay in Windsor Castle because of concerns over the pandemic. Her Majesty is not expected to make any public appearances tomorrow, but was said to be, and I quote, in good form by Buckingham Palace aides. To look ahead to the dress at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon and other matters concerning the royal family this festive season, I'm delighted to be joined by Richard FITZWILLIAMS, a good friend and royal commentator. Richard, always good to see you. Come to the speech in just a moment, but generally speaking, this is going to be a scaled-back Christmas for the royals, a very small family affair. What's the plan for the Queen?
Well, very clearly, she had hoped to go to Sandringham for precautionary measures, and considering that the situation regarding the pandemic has been so fluid, she decided to stay at Windsor. But it has been announced that Prince of Wales, the Duchess of Cornwall, the Earl and Countess of Wessex and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester will go to St George's Chapel for a service on Christmas Day. The Queen undoubtedly will take communion privately, and the one thing that we can rely on, as you've said, is her address pre-recorded to the nation at 3 p.m. We haven't been given any other information regarding her movement.
I think that may have frozen. Can you still hear me, Richard? You can. Let's come to the address then. I'm going to press on because I think it'll sort itself out. There has been a lot of speculation, nevertheless, about the address, and we're being told it will be a very personal message. As an insider, what do you take that to mean?
I take that to mean that this year being her first without her strength and stay, Prince Philip, will be especially significant because in the 73 years of married life, she was only at Christmas abroad on one occasion of the Royal Yacht Britannia, otherwise they were together. So obviously this will be a time when she will miss him very much indeed. And that will also mean that, and she does this beautifully, we saw this last Christmas, the way she empathized with those who had suffered for the pandemic. Clearly, and everyone, I think, listening will remember her alone at the funeral of Prince Philip. There's no question at all that that image has remained in people's minds, and she will, I think, be able to articulate without, she's stoic, as we know by nature, a certain amount of poignancy, whilst remembering that these Christmas broadcasts have a religious theme, and there's always the theme of hope that is predominant.
Yeah, and worshipping in St George's Chapel will have an added poignancy for Her Majesty and other members of the family who join her. But on a slightly lighter note, and not in any sense disrespectful, you know better than most that the royal family are real sticklers for tradition at Christmas, but also some light-hearted stuff as well. What will survive of that?
Well, I mean, of course, we won't be told, but the rumours always are. You mentioned the light-hearted. Absolutely. They, I'm sure, will continue the tradition, the German tradition of opening their presents on Christmas Eve. And with their presents, they'll probably stick to something cheap and cheerful. After all, what do you give a family who has absolutely anything? Also, rumours have persisted on Christmas Day, and who knows what they'll get up to, that they tend to play charades. And whereas I must assure viewers that I'm sure it's nothing like as ridiculous as the Ibble Dibble, which they played in The Crown to the embarrassment of Margaret Thatcher, which was absolute rubbish, that I'm sure that there will be a good deal of good-humoured jocularity, because, of course, this is, again, an occasion that they'd hoped to be spending at Sandringham, and they'll make the most of it with light-hearted fun as well. I think that's essential given the circumstances, and I'm sure families throughout the country will be doing it, and the royal family, I'm sure, will thoroughly enjoy it, even though, of course, the Cambridges will be at Anmore Hall. The whole idea was to have, obviously, the extended family lunch at Buckingham Palace, and then, obviously, some maybe up to 30 for Sandringham, Christmas at Sandringham. This hopefully will happen next year, but absolutely, I'm sure that, I mean, they won't be able to stage the Boxing Day shoot. There'll be all sorts of traditions that will be altered, but you can rest assured they'll enjoy it.
We all know the Prince of Wales, the heir apparent, was a huge fan of the Goons when he was an undergraduate and did a few bits of comedy banter on stage when he was at university. Is it also true that he has a reputation for giving particularly crazy gifts?
Yes, apparently there is this report, for example, that Princess Anne is supposed to have given him a lavatory seat, which he's supposed to have taken on flights abroad, rather than Harry is supposed to have given them a beach hat, I think it was, to the Queen with some amusing inscription. The point being that Diana, for example, wasn't warned about this light-hearted aspect to the family Christmas, the fact that you didn't buy anything expensive, and it was rather embarrassing. The point being, again, that the royals at Christmas, as you say, there are these traditions. And indeed, I lost track of the number of times that they're supposed to change this for various activities, including a walk. There's always the traditional walk to church at St Mary Magdalene in Sandringham. Well, as you know, several of the royal family will be going to the chapel at Windsor. But equally, throughout the day, there's usually the royal, there's the breakfast, the English breakfast, the walk to church, then there is lunch, then there's the Queen's speech, which is listened to. According to rumour, the Queen occasionally leaves the party to view it on her own, and then there is apparently a buffet dinner and possibly afterwards some games, so we're told. So, I mean, it's very formal if you look at it in that sense, and I'm sure that reportedly Catherine was somewhat terrified before her first royal Christmas. You can see why it would overwhelm people in a way. But on the other hand, when you're there, I'm sure they have a tremendous amount of fun.
I hope so. They serve with great dignity and they're entitled to a bit of downtime as well. Richard, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts and reflections on the Royal Christmas. That's Richard FITZWILLIAMS there, Royal commentator. Now, whether you're a member of the Royal family or whichever family, Christmas Day can be a pretty stressful occasion if you're hosting, with the pressures of getting the turkey just right, making sure that those vegetables are washed and cooked to perfection, and that the table setting is decorated with all of the trimmings, bits and pieces, and crackers. We all have horror stories of Christmas meals that have gone wrong, but to try and help you through this stressful period, we thought we'd bring on a guest who knows a thing or two about preparing incredibly delicious and gorgeous-looking food. I am delighted to be joined by the fabulous celebrity chef and, of course, fellow GB News presenter, Tonia Buxton. Great to see you there. What stage are you at, and what little secrets can you share with the rest of us?
Well, Alastair, I'm not actually cooking Christmas lunch tomorrow. It's the first time my brother's wife is doing it, and I do feel a little sorry for her because I do normally do it. But I have cooked a full Christmas lunch because my family are obsessed with turkey sandwiches. So what I've got in front of me here is a big old bird. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to lift her up. This is just for the sandwiches for Christmas evening, and I've got stuffing and cranberry sauces. I love cooking, but what I really want to say is I want to say that people just need to remember that you just got to have everything organised. That's the most important thing, is to be totally and utterly organised.
Yeah. My wife, I think you know this, my wife is a former television production assistant as well as being a brilliant cook, and she backtimes the whole thing so she knows when to start. So the turkey actually goes in tonight and then it all goes through, and it is magnificent. But that's real management, that's real planning.
So that's the most important thing. What you've got to really think about is that Christmas is got to be about joy and about happiness and not being stressed out. And I think that there's a very heavy burden on the person that needs to cook. So one of my big hints is, because people think, I won't have the oven space. But actually, you can rest your turkey for up to 4 hours before you serve it. So it gives you a lovely clear oven. And if you just do all the little timings before, for example, I've got a cranberry sauce here that I made, but I made this last week. I've got the mince here that I made for my mince pies. I made that, about 3 weeks ago. The red cabbage is in the freezer, ready to go. So do as much as you can before, because I think it's really important that you have a good time too, especially if you're the person cooking. You're the one doing all the hard work, so you've got to manipulate it to make sure that you have a good time too. And my really big tip is don't drink till everyone's sitting at the table.
Well, that's just broken hearts in my household as well, because my daughter asked me just before I left for work, have you got enough champagne in? So she likes to have a tipple of champagne before the lunch. But I tell you, the other thing we were talking about, and this divides my family, but I know you have strong views upon it, pudding. To me, Christmas pudding is utterly vital, but for a lot of people, it's kind of fallen by the wayside.
I've got to I don't understand it. Christmas pudding is the best food in the world. It would be part of my last meal before I die. I'd want Christmas pudding with brandy sauce and custard. So I can't conceive people who don't adore it. And I do think on this one day of the year that everybody should have a little bit of Christmas pudding. You can have other desserts any other time, can't you? So why not have Christmas pudding on Christmas Day?
Totally agree with you. Have a lovely evening and a wonderful, glorious day tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you when you're next in and our paths cross. For the time being, thanks for your time, Tonia, and a very, very happy Christmas to you and yours. The great Tonia Buxton there with her experiences and her tips for the great day. Coming up, I'll be speaking with a Christmas expert about all of the traditions of the holiday season, not only here, but also abroad. He'll give us some insight into how other countries celebrate. But first, let's bring you up to date with the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. The weather this Christmas is all about the contrast. Cold but bright in the north and east, rain elsewhere and fairly mild in the southwest. And you can see those contrasts on this map. The blues there across northern parts of the UK, whilst milder air affects southwestern areas, and these weather fronts moving in and then stalling through central zones. So for Christmas Eve night, an area of rain moving north across central parts of the country, tending to fizzle out through the end of the night, but leaving a lot of cloud and damp conditions. Heavier rain returns to South Wales and the southwest. Milder here, but for Scotland, clear spells through the night means frost to wake up to on Christmas Day, with temperatures in sheltered spots below freezing. That's where the lion's share of sunshine will be for Christmas Day itself, particularly northwest and west Scotland. Patchy cloud elsewhere. Staying dry, at first at least, for Northern Ireland, for northern and central England and East Anglia. Windy in the north, especially over the higher ground, and that will make it feel really quite cold through Christmas Day. Much milder in the southwest, but here it will be wet throughout Christmas Day, as well as for much of Wales, and then increasingly the Midlands, central southern and southeast England, as well as Northern Ireland. And as this rain moves north during Christmas Day night, it will mix with the colder air, and we're likely to see some snow for the higher parts of northern England, southern and central Scotland, primarily above 300 or 400 metres. And we're likely to see, with the strong winds, some drifting of that snow, so tricky conditions over some of the higher Pennine routes, as well as for some of the higher routes of central and southern Scotland. First thing, Boxing Day. That weather does fizzle out through the day, however, and it stays dry and bright in the north of Scotland, brightening up in the southwest, also in between showers, and it will be cloudy across much of England, Wales and Northern Ireland, with outbreaks of rain on and off. Further rain at times on Monday, drying up on Tuesday and turning milder.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for the political correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is the political correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Right, this is how your Christmas might typically look. Tree up in the living room, dinner around the table with loved ones, and then perhaps a gift or two to open. But there's far more to the festive season from its religious origins to the different ways that it's celebrated across the world. And I'm delighted that we can now speak to Mr. Festive himself, James Cooper, who is a Christmas expert. I'm so glad that you dressed for the occasion there as well. First, let's start the serious bit, and I know we're going to have a bit of fun as well, but this is the serious bit. It is a religious festival, but the history of how we celebrate Christmas, what are the origins?
Right, it's a complex one. It's really changed throughout the years. As you say, it starts as a religious festival. Jesus was probably born in September or October, and how we got to December the 25th is a bit of an odd one. You had the North European midwinter festivals. You had the Jewish festival of Hanukkah. And you had Jesus's conception being celebrated on the 25th of March. Add 9 months to that and you get the 25th of December, and it sort of all came together, and that was how we got the date, and it's sort of changed and evolved over time into the Christmas that we have today.
How extraordinary. And we tend to assume that these traditions go back forever, things like trees and decorations and gifts on Christmas morning, but they don't go back that far. When did the ones that we all are familiar with, when did they actually start? And more importantly, where did they come from?
Right. Again, some traditions are much older than others, but a lot of the things that we associate with Christmas, crackers, trees, how those sort of things work, a lot of them came from the 1840s and later and were much influenced by the Germans. Christmas trees have been popular in Germany from the sort of latter half of the 1600s. But they only became popular here once the Royals started having them in the late 1840s. And then they sort of became the fashionable thing to do. And that's where that came from. Christmas cards. The first Christmas card was sent in 1843. So that was at that time. Crackers were invented in the 1840s as well. So the 1840s is sort of the invention of Christmas as we have it today.
That's fascinating. Is that Prince Albert, basically?
Yeah. Queen Charlotte had the first tree in the early 1800s, but it was an illustrated London News of 1848 published a drawing of the royal tree showing Albert and Victoria and their children around the tree. And that's when it really became the fashionable thing to do, rather than just some weird German thing.
Weird, steady, perfectly reasonable German thing. We won't dwell upon Prince Albert, but one of my absolute fixations, because the way the British Army looks today was basically all down to him as well. He just decided to chop and change it all and bring it forward. Let's also talk about what I said in my introduction, because this also fascinates me, and I hope folk at home will find it interesting as well. The way in which it's celebrated around the world varies quite significantly in some countries, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're quite unusual in having our Christmas meal on December the 25th. It's December the 24th. It's the evening of December the 24th. Most of Europe are having their Christmas meal now. Most of Latin America has their Christmas meal on December the 24th. Us, America, Australia, New Zealand and Canada are kind of the outliers of having Christmas meals on the 25th.
And gifts at different times as well. We were just talking about the royal family. I mean, they exchange their gifts on Christmas Eve, whereas I think, I mean, my own family, you know, we get stockings at the end of the bed, and then we have a coffee and a breakfast, and then we get round the tree and tear it all apart on the 25th. But in that sense, I guess we're slightly unusual.
We are, yeah. Again, presents are a 24th thing for many countries, especially coming from Catholic traditions. And also many countries like the Netherlands and Belgium have Sinterklaas, St. Nicholas, who comes on the 5th of January in the evening and gives you some gifts. And then Santa Claus, who's a completely different character to Sinterklaas, comes at Christmas.
I just love it. And I have a godson who's married to a fabulous Polish woman and learnt from her that turkey, no way, carp.
Oh, no. Carp, yep. The old school thing to do was you bought your carp in the Christmas market the week before Christmas and you kept it in your bath until Christmas Eve.
Right, so what are you up to? You're the expert. You have all of the options. You've made a study of it. Are you a traditionalist, a revolutionary, a Prince Albertist, or what?
I'm pretty traditional, or what we think of as traditional now, but it's fascinating to know where the traditions come from and how they've changed over time, and what we think of as being traditional and has happened for hundreds of years probably isn't actually that traditional in the long run.
Right, James, whatever you get up to, and I'm glad you're a traditionalist because we are as well, but seriously, from all of us here at GB News, wish you and yours a very, very happy Christmas.
Thank you, and happy Christmas.
Thanks for finding time for us. That's James Cooper, who has made an art form, even a science, of the study of Christmas, and I'm grateful for his thoughts. Now, bit of a gear change. It is time to get all of the latest from the world of entertainment, and what a year it's been. From a long-awaited James Bond movie to the right now current contenders for the coveted Christmas #1 slot, we have it all because we have the excellent guest entertainment reporter, ELLIE Phillips. I'm so pleased when they told me it was you.
Yeah?
I didn't know I had to wear sunglasses
Yeah,
to conduct the interview.
I'm disappointed that you don't have a sequin tie on it, if I'm honest. I'll bring you one next year.
Well, I went for a little horsey tie.
It's nice,
but
you've got red in there.
Well, there you go.
You tried a bit.
One of the great things about this conversation, and we've discussed what we want to talk about because we think folk at home will find it interesting, is that it actually ticks all the boxes from folk of my age right down to the youngsters. So let's start with ABBA, because I am of the age who remember first time round as a fan, but goodness me, they hit the ground again running 40 years on.
Yeah, they've done so well this year. They've obviously come back together. They've released their album Voyage, which went straight to #1. It's done amazingly well, and they're going to have their tour next year, which isn't a tour, but it is a tour. It's this Avatar thing that's happening at the Queen Elizabeth Park, which sees them in these avatar forms performing. And they've also released a Christmas single called Little Things, and it was actually released at the beginning of December, but unfortunately it peaked at number 61 on the charts. It didn't do that well.
I mean, an awful lot of people are thrilled to bits that they're back, and they embrace the Voyage album. It sold fantastically, as we were just seeing while you were chatting there. Very clever graphics and the rest of it. But most of the music critics said there isn't a standout track.
Yeah, it's fun to listen to, it's easy breezy, it's harmless music, and I think the problem is the music industry has changed so much nowadays that they released an album at the beginning of November, and that track was on that album, so people already had a month with that. So when you release that as a single a month later, are people really going to go out and buy it?
Let's change the subject, and we'll start with some music. Just play a bit of our next topic for folk at home. So a phenomenal combination there. Ed Sheeran, one of the great stars of the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And again, Elton, who I remember first time round.
Absolute icon.
Is that going to be #1?
So I've got breaking news for you. The Christmas #1 of 2021 has been announced.
Oh, gosh.
It's been announced in the last hour. And it's Lad Baby who's gone to #1, breaking records, making history.
We have a clip of that.
Let's do it. It's right. It's right. No, it's right.
Is that right?
This is right. So this is the thing. Let me explain. Okay. So Lad Baby's gone to #1.
Yes.
With the Sausage Roll song. But the
he does it every year. The two of them, aren't there?
Yes.
They do it every year. And it's a charity thing. So it's
thing.
good.
It's
However dreadful the music is, it's a good thing.
It raises money for Trust the Trust, and their mission is to end poverty and hunger in the UK, which is incredible. They parody another song each year.
Oh, I
So they have parodied the Ed Sheeran and Elton John song, which went to #2.
Right,
And in
okay.
true Christmas style and the spirit of all things good, Ed Sheeran and Elton John are actually in the music video with them and sing along with them in it. So it's brilliant. But it is quite confusing when you hear them because you're like, which one is this? Is this the Lad Baby parody?
Like the
Is this
Beatles
real
appearing
one?
on the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. Yeah,
So
fine.
that's why you're confused, but...
Well, I'm easily confused, but as always, you put me right on it. Another huge name who tends to keep us waiting for her music, but when it lands, goodness me.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about hit singles. Boom, the album was brilliant, the single have been brilliant.
Yeah.
Adele.
Yes. So Adele, this is her big comeback year. She'd been away for 6 years. It's for those two things. One in America, where she performed outside the Griffith Observatory and was interviewed by, like you said, by Oprah. And then to have this UK ITV big, huge hour special. She didn't need them, like you said, but she just did those two things. She didn't really do much else. And that, I think, just helped people to remember how great she is to watch, to see her perform, and how down-to-earth she is as well.
I think she's also a genuinely interesting person.
Yeah. Yeah, she comes from, a really poor background in East London, single mum. She had an alcoholic father, and she's just made a huge success of herself purely based on talent.
Yeah.
And I think that's a story that we all love to hear, and so we all follow. And even though she's moved to LA and she lives there now, she's still Adele from the East End in London, and I think that's what we love about her.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. Now, I mentioned the Rolling Stones in passing because, as you know, I'm a huge fan of theirs. I'm also a huge fan of James Bond, and therefore was slightly surprised when I popped into our local supermarket the other day to see the DVD of the new Bond film, not only on sale in the supermarket as a DVD, but discounted to £8. The name's Bond, Flop Bond.
The thing is, I mean, no one really buys DVDs anymore. I probably shouldn't say that, but it is the truth. So I think if they're just kind of like, oh, we'll make a bit of extra from that, we'll put it out there. Most people watch things on streaming services now. When a film, they'll wait for it to go to that. So they're probably like, we'll put it out there. We'll see who wants it. It might be more of a collector's item. Someone who's like, I've got the whole set. Wants another one.
Can we run a little bit of it without spoiling anything?
History isn't kind to men who play God.
Told you I was a fan. That's like a montage of the last 5 films, whether it's the square with lots of people, whether it's leaping over walls, whether it's the DB6 going around with machine gun fires. Did it lack originality?
I don't think it did. I liked it. I think there were some really smart quips in there. There were some comments. There was a lot of comedy timing that you wouldn't expect from it. And I think that was brought in by the help of Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She was brought on to help kind of spice up the script, if you will. So I thought that was really good. And it was really great to see as well. There was, you didn't see her actually in that montage, but Lashana Lynch was cast as Nomi, a new agent. So not James Bond, but a new 00 agent.
But Phoebe's been hinting that the next Bond may still be a man.
Yes.
Is that Phoebe playing games as she tends to, or...?
I actually don't think so. I think what she said is that she doesn't think it should be a man, and that actually there should be a female character to rival Bond. There's no need to make him a woman. It doesn't really flow with what's happened over time. And it's kind of cheap and easy to just go, oh, well, we'll just make it a woman. Then actually it would be more interesting.
Did you spot her influence in the script? Because she was originally brought in, they had an argument over who was going to direct it, chops and change, and then Phoebe came in to make the script sing.
Yeah, I definitely noticed her influence on it. Like I said, it was just a bit punchier. There were more quips. There was more, I don't know, there was just more banter between a lot of the characters. And it was a bit sexier in that way, which I liked. So, yeah, I think it was a really good move to have her in there. I thought Nomi was amazing.
And we get a bit more Killing Eve this year, don't we?
Yes.
Yes. Brilliant. And finally, as they say in the trade, I'm not going to start talking about it yet. I'm just going to ask my colleagues behind me to play a little clip of and I allow myself a little gag. That wasn't a GB News glitch on the technical side, which we had a few months ago. And that was the silence when Rose just absolutely hit the nation between the eyes and she went on to win. I was pro-Rose all the way through. Mrs S was very pro-John and Johannes.
Oh, okay. So
we're not speaking to each other.
I was about to say, yeah, that final must have been pretty tense at home. But that moment in itself, oh wow, what a powerful moment. That will go down in history. Definitely one of the best TV moments of the year. Yeah. It really invited the audience to step into Rose's shoes and like live the world just through how she experiences it every day, and showed how incredibly talented she is, that even though she can't hear, she's still able to perform in such a beautiful way.
Yes.
It was really stunning, and it gave so many people goosebumps.
Yeah.
I mean, even now watching it, I just feel incredibly emotional.
And the extraordinary thing about Strictly Come Dancing, which is an extraordinary thing in its own right, been around for ages and in numbers terms goes from strength to strength. This is the one time where the viewers have the final say. They can choose who has to dance again, and then the judges have the final say. Was that the right outcome? You're an independent, objective crit. That's what you do for a living. Was that the right outcome?
Absolutely, yeah. Just from my own personal opinion, she definitely deserved to win. She was the one who needed to lift that glitter ball trophy, without a doubt. But I also think that John Waite definitely, deserved his place in the final as well. In terms of the other critics and in terms of betting figures and things like that, she was always odds-on favourite to win. In fact, when AJ Adudu had to pull out last minute, it put Rose at 95% guarantee to win.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a shock that she won, but it was just wonderful to see.
All right. Good to talk to you always, and you have a great Christmas, Ellie. Thank you very much indeed. There we are. And I only mentioned the Rolling Stones twice. But they were the biggest grossing live band last year, but that's just en passant. Santa is on his way across the globe, delivering millions of fabulous presents to those of us on his good list. And right now, he is over Port-au-Français. Magnificent. After the break, I'll be speaking to Major General Eric Kenny from the Command Centre to get Santa's latest movements and find out a little bit more about NORAD and its operations. See you then.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
A little over 5 hours to the start of Christmas Day, and of course one of the biggest joys of the festive season is counting down to the moment when you find a big pile of presents underneath the tree, and if you're really lucky, in a stocking at the end of your bed too. Now, if you've ever wanted to follow Santa around to know when exactly you can spect him down your chimney, well, modern technology makes this possible. Thanks to the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, we are able to bring you Santa's live location as he makes his billions of deliveries around the world. And I'm deeply honoured to be able to say that to talk to us more about this whole operation and help us to understand the data, I am joined by Major General Eric Kenny from NORAD. General, really good of you to come and join us by live link across the oceans. How did the Santa tracker come about in the first place?
Well, thanks so much for having me, and good evening. So this all started back in 1955. At that time, a local department store put an ad in the paper. They misprinted the phone number, and that phone number actually was to the Continental Air Defense Command. So a child trying to call Santa Claus called Colonel Shoup, who was on duty that night, and answered, recognized very quickly that the child was trying to call Santa Claus, so he responded in that manner. And then he had all his members who were on duty respond to all the phone calls that they got from children, asking exactly where Santa Claus was located. So from that time forward, 66 years later, and NORAD was created 3 years after that, we've taken on that mission.
And I love the way you refer to it as a mission, because we're talking about, when it was born, we're talking about an era of global tensions and the Cold War and the rest of it. To have taken that embrace rather than just dismissing a child and to have embraced it was a wonderful thing. But I can see from your uniform, and I know as well, you are a professional aviator, United States Air Force and the rest of it. Do you and your brilliant colleagues ever have to offer Santa guidance about flying over dangerous territories, upcoming weather conditions that he may need to be aware of? Because you're the guys to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we necessarily provide him guidance. We're there to help escort him. So I was actually an escort pilot in 2010. I was flying Canadian F-18 based out of Cold Lake, Alberta. And I was able to launch that night on Christmas Eve to escort him as he came across the western portion of Canada. And I could tell you that he does enjoy having the pilots come alongside him, recognizing that he has to slow down, actually, for us to join up with him. And he always gives us a wave. We believe it, the ho, 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 and a little bit of a wink as he then carries on with his mission. But one of our roles that we do 365 days of the year, 24/7, is to provide aerospace control, aerospace warning, and maritime warning for all of Canada and the United States. Yeah. So this is one of those missions, as I said, that we like to do on the 24th of December.
I offer you a profound apology. I thought you, United States Air Force, you are the great and brilliant Royal Canadian Air Force, which I know a little bit about. And actually, back referencing what you were just saying, General, my Royal Air Force dad was the officer commanding for the RAF at Goose Bay some many years ago, which also, I think, contributed to what is a tri-service operation. USAF, Canadians like your good self, and also the Royal Air Force. All of you have in-flight refuelling to keep those bombers in the air and keep escorts like the one that you were flying going the whole time. But Santa seems to have unlimited range on his own.
He does. He's able to travel for 24 hours. We believe it's a special space-time continuum that he uses, because I have to admit, even coming up to escort him, time just seems to slow down. Yet we know that it has passed when we come down and land, an hour and a half to 2 hours later. So we're not quite sure how he does it, but he does it every year, and he does it in a brilliant manner.
It's like nuclear fission and fusion. It's one of the great mysteries of energy and of flight. As I said at the beginning, it is an honour to be joined by you. And I know, in a sense, this is slightly downtime for you and your team there, doing a very serious job on the other 364 days of the year. Do you sense yourself that this is a period of tension where in the real world we need to be particularly cautious and keep things to the forefront of our mind of what people like you and your American colleagues and the Royal Air Force do for all of us?
Yeah, so December 24th is a day of hope, I would say, and joy. We're all looking forward to Santa Claus coming, hopefully, to visit us, as we know he will. But the reality is we live in a dangerous world, and we're seeing multipolar conflict and tensions that are created. So having an opportunity such as today, working with NORAD Track Santa to bring some joy to children and to parents who want to track Santa's progress is always a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you have a good time, and I hope that you and all of your colleagues working there to keep us safe manage to have a very exciting and good day as it progresses for you, because you're 5-6 hours behind us, and then Have a great Christmas and a very happy New Year to you. General, thank you very much indeed, and we shall be watching with great interest. That was Major General Eric Kenny from NORAD Region Command, and let me explain again, it's a tri-service operation, and he represents the Great Royal Canadian Air Force and not the United States Air Force, as I said in error. My apologies to him. Now, if you want to continue tracking Santa's journey this evening ahead, just move over to our GB News Facebook page for a live stream at GB News. And indeed, to learn more about NORAD, you can also visit their website, and that is noradsanta.org. So there you have it. Enjoy. Now, to end, fabulous story to warm your hearts this Christmas time. The Northern Ireland Children to Lapland Trust makes children's dreams come true, flying over 100 children a year to Lapland to give them the magical experience of meeting Santa Claus, sleigh rides and so much more. Our reporter Douglas Beattie has been taking a look.
Oh, Frosty the snowman was alive as he could be, and the children say he left and plays the same as you and me.
We have all cursed the restrictions of a COVID Christmas and just how it curtails our plans. But spare a thought for those who may not see another.
The Northern Ireland Children to Lapland Trust was formed 12 years ago, and for the past 12 years, well, in effect for the past 10 years, we've been taking a plane full of Northern Ireland children up to see Santa Claus up in Lapland. I say only 10 out of the 12 because last year and this year, I'm afraid COVID has affected us very badly indeed. It meant that last year we just couldn't travel to Lapland. It wasn't feasible to take over 100 children, seriously ill children, some terminally ill, to a very cold Lapland.
The innocence of the children's dreams were being brought to life on a flight to the Arctic Circle to see Santa.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, jingle bells, jingle.
For those non-believers, the magic of Lapland is hard to deny. Brought by huskies, skidoos and yes, reindeers, to an underground kingdom where ice sculptures, elves and train rides existed. The families of these seriously and terminally ill children shared an experience never to be forgotten.
It's been about mega memories for the three of them, the three children, so it has, and it's been absolutely amazing. It's like something out of a storybook.
Great, it's great to see all the wee ones, you know, isn't it? Getting to see Santa Claus, wasn't it? Yeah. Good boy. Thanks.
For the past 2 years, this charity has only been able to deliver presents to the children who have had a struggle that most of us couldn't even imagine.
We got all the 110 kids that we were to bring. We got their names and addresses from all the health trusts, and we got them presents to the value of £200, and we distributed those to all the kids in their homes in the week before Christmas. We also get letters from Santa Claus and a video from Santa Claus individually to each of their homes.
I wish I could read this every day about it.
Back in Lapland, there were gifts aplenty. The magic of the day and excitement in everyone's eyes was a gift that would never, ever fade. The charity is so eager to return to its dream-making flights and realises it brings much more to these children than the experience of the day.
We sometimes take these things for granted, and sometimes the feedback that we get really hits home. We had one letter from a mother and said how much it meant to her daughter to be singled out for this, but not only her daughter, the brothers and sisters, the aunts, the uncles, the grannies, their school friends, the whole community took great pride and joy in the fact that this little girl was going to Lapland, and she said it gave her confidence such a boost. And we maybe sometimes don't recognise just how much of an impact it can make.
As this very special Christmas flight kissed the Irish skyline on its homeward journey, it occurred to me that there were two very different emotions on board. Those of the parents who had made precious memories and those of the children who had had their dreams come true. Douglas Beattie, GB News, Belfast.
I just love that package, so brilliant. That's it from me for now. Coming up next, Mark Stein, who's going to take you through an hour of music and fun in his inimitable style. Then I'll be back at 8 o'clock, where I'll be speaking to the RSPCA about animals at Christmas and the things to watch out for, and of course how very much loved pets are not just for Christmas. I'll also bring you an update on Santa as he continues his travels across the globe, bringing millions of presents to those lucky enough and well enough behaved to be on his good list. But for now, that's it from me. Mark Stein, as I say, is next, and I'll see you again at 8. Let's bring you up to date before Mark with the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. The weather this Christmas is all about the contrast. Cold but bright in the north and east, rain elsewhere and fairly mild in the southwest. And you can see those contrasts on this map. The blues there across northern parts of the UK, whilst milder air affects southwestern areas, and these weather fronts moving in and then stalling through central zones. So for Christmas Eve night, an area of rain moving north across central parts of the country, tending to fizzle out through the end of the night, but leaving a lot of cloud and damp conditions. Heavier rain returns to South Wales and the southwest. Milder here, but for Scotland, clear spells through the night means frost to wake up to on Christmas Day, with temperatures in sheltered spots below freezing. That's where the lion's share of sunshine will be for Christmas Day itself, particularly northwest and west Scotland. Patchy cloud elsewhere. Staying dry, at first at least, for Northern Ireland, for northern and central England and East Anglia. Wind